So, I never thought I'd be seeing the day when Tim Pool would call for the violation of free speech, but it has arrived. There are many problems the West currently faces. No one's denying that. However, the idea of telling somebody what they can and can't do for their own choice of profession, what they can and cannot say or produce as art, especially when it comes to them making money, seems to be a step towards tyranny. Not just censorship, but tyranny. Because what you're doing at that point is not saying, look, we're banning this for the good of the public. You're saying, we are going to control what you do. That may sound like the same thing, but it's not. I'm going to try to go into it here in a moment. If you don't know, Tim was hosting a podcast which he's talking about the culture war. And he had on a guest that Tim was agreeing with. They basically said that porn is a detriment to society. I do not agree with that statement. They also started picking on OnlyFans models, saying this is wrecking women's lives. That is partially true. We're going to why that's nuanced in a second. And then they said that just because, this is Tim and his host talking, that although they are devout capitalists, treating capitalism almost like a religion, they think there should be restrictions on porn so it's not so ubiquitous. Ubiquitous? Ubiquitous. Have you been to Germany where porn is openly advertised on street signs? Where you can walk down lanes in Denmark where prostitutes have windows open? No. Porn is not ubiquitous. They then proceeded to blame the internet for easy access to porn. Okay, hold on a second. Ruth and I have already talked about this for our kids. This is very easy. You simply put the computer they use in a public space so that you can see everything they're doing. And as far as their phones go, you give them something primitive like a flip phone so they can call, but they can't surf. It pretty much is that easy. By simply denying the child the technology to access the objectionable material, you prevent the objectionable material from reaching the child. That may seem a little totalitarian. It may seem a little pie in the sky, but it is workable. I know parents that are doing it, which is why I came up with this strategy. Every time I hear someone say it's for the children or it's for society, my warning sensors go off. Tim and his guests began to complain that women are getting to OnlyFans and ruining their lives after they hit 30 or 40 because nobody wants them. Okay. There are men who go into professional athletics who do the same thing to themselves. I'm not just talking about the big namers like the NFL. A lot of people are into athletics for a career. It's their side job. They do things like play minor league baseball. And they put a lot of time and effort to try to make something better happen for them, and it never does. Are we going to go to them and say, like Tim and his guests are saying, well, look, you don't understand. Lady, you going to OnlyFans, you have a very slim chance of actually being able to make enough money over a long period of time to coast you through that period of time when nobody's going to want to look at your naked body. So we should prevent you from doing that. Are they about to say the same thing to all those minor league baseballers? Hey, look, your chances of getting to the pros are so minuscule that you might as well not even try. You might as well take this time you're putting into baseball and put it into, I don't know, learn to code. In a free society, we allow people to make decisions for themselves. That means they also have to bear the consequences. So if women going into OnlyFans find that they're having problems dating or they're being socially excised, they should consider that before they accept the profession. Sorry, I do get water from my cough. I don't know where I left off. think I left off on the accept the consequences for your actions bit. There was a case recently where a girl, I'm sorry, I meant to say girl, a young lady who had a child, was dropping her child off at school. Now, she happened to have an OnlyFans account. That's how she made a living for her and her family. She had her account plastered on the back of her car. The school asked her no longer to pick up her son in that car because it was causing a distraction. Okay. This is the kind of thing that Tim and his guest are worried about, the normalization of porn in society. At no point on her sign was there any image of her. It was just her name and her address. But I would even compromise and say, I see your point on that, Tim. Maybe we should eliminate the advertisement of pornography in public. That way, anyone who wants it has to go looking for it. I think we could all agree to that. But then the school tried to expel her child. Yeah. Over the line. Public school, by the way. Second example of why I'm against this idea of vilifying women who do this. Young lady works at a fast food joint. She is like 18, 19, working her way through college. Now, we used to have the joke of working your way through college by stripping around the pole, right? And the men that went to the club don't want anyone to know they were going to the club, so they wouldn't say anything about it. Well, in the age of the internet, that's a little bit different. A couple of guests recognized her because she, to make money on the side, had an OnlyFans page. Now, this girl wasn't a top-line talent. She's not making the $500,000, $400,000 a year, right? She's making like maybe an extra $200, $400 a month. Because she was recognized as being an OnlyFans star and her manager thought it was causing a distraction, her manager fired her. I would argue that's highly not fair. Didn't happen at his workplace, not his business, right? But it's an at-will state. What are you going to do? We have a double standard in our society where a male who gets involved in pornography is not stigmatized the way a woman is. And we all know where that comes from. That's the shadow of Christianity. The Christian moral ethic for women being Madonnas that aren't sexually touched until marriage is still with us. Tim and his guests go on to say that they feel women are ultimately too impressionable, that they're all inspired to quit their jobs to go do this. Tim even mentioned stories about it. I don't know any women who have ever done that. Quit their job to go into OnlyFans. And I know quite a few women. So my point is that I don't think this is an advanced phenomenon as Tim's saying it is. I think he's having a moral panic here. But he's a major voice and influencer on the internet. We also have a double standard here in the States that a man who uses his body to make money doing something physical is admired, but a woman who does it is kind of laughed at and derided. Case in point, let's say basketball. How many jokes about the women's basketball league are there? Do you hear anyone mocking the Celtics for putting on their gear and going out to play? No, you hear it when they mock women's teams. So when a woman uses her sex to do something that her sex arguably does better than a man, porn, we vilify her. I have never understood this double standard. Then there's the argument that Tim and his guests make that porn's going to ruin your life. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Stars that were popular off the top of my head, I know who regret getting involved. Chasey Lane, a star from the late 80s, regret getting involved because she got addicted to heroin. The star commonly known as Asia Carrera She had a very successful career and then went into production when she was no longer keen to get in front of the camera. She met her husband, who was also a porn star on set. They married, had a kid, had a happy marriage by all accounts, and then he died in a car crash. He died and she went into a depression. And I don't think she's actually ever really gotten over it. All accounts, by the way, the love affair say it was very deep. That intense thing you read about in romance novels, that's what this was. She's had some arrests since then for substance abuse. She had none before he died. She gave an interview after she first got out of recovery for alcoholism. After he died, talking about the difficulty she was having dealing with his death because she loved him so much and didn't think she could live without him. So is that porn ruining her life, or is that a tragedy that everybody goes through? Yeah. Paige, the artist commonly known as Veronica Vane, left a Wall Street job to go into porn, didn't do bad at it, and then quit. Started her own porn company to make porn in a more ethical manner because she had some problems with the ethics in the porn industry. Her company, unfortunately, did not take off. I can't imagine why. One of the problems that she recounts in an interview she gave about it on YouTube was that she could never find backers because the backers had a certain idea what porn was and didn't want to get behind her idea of making it more tame. One of the things she had a problem with was scenes in which you have the whole incest thing being broached or talked about. She hated those scenes, so she refused to review something like that. She wanted scenes that were more romantic in nature. She put it more made for women. There'd be a story, there'd be romance, there'd be better lighting. Yes, you're going to have a sex scene, but it's not actually like the centerpiece of the movie. It didn't work. Again, because of outside pressure saying what this thing should be, and she's trying to change it. With Paige's story, she eventually sort of went back, kind of not really, through OnlyFans. She refused to get involved with the industry standard and just filmed from her bedroom in her personal life. Other porn stars I know that have gone on to do things that don't involve porn. Riley Reid, a famous fairly current one, recently quit the industry to go into, if I remember correctly, video game voicing. And Sasha Grey has streams about cooking, gaming, and comedy. And if you ask Sasha Grey, the artist formerly known as Sasha Grey, her name I believe is Mariana, she doesn't regret her time in, but she got out. She's like, I also didn't like some of the things I saw going on with the girls, ways the girls were treated. And it has not harmed her one iota. She's got one of the largest streams on YouTube right now. She's making fine money. She got videos of herself traveling the world. So the argument that porn's going to ruin your life? No, it's not going to ruin your life. In fact, one of the best interviews by Sasha is she went with the whole Diddy thing coming down. People that like to have sexual experimentation and sexual fantasies come into reality are now being vilified. Imply, of course, that she was doing it because she liked it. Now, that may be playing to her audience. I kind of doubt it. I think the idea of a woman who enjoys sex is so terrifying to the ethical shadow we are still living in that it causes a knee-jerk reaction. Now, that reaction was born out of concerns of having children too soon that couldn't be supported. That fear is valid. Don't mistake me. The second fear that's valid is, what if she gets a disease that she could then pass on to her progeny or her mates? That's also a valid concern. But those concerns can be mitigated, and from things about the CDC that I know, most cases of STD infection that you didn't know about it come from private people, not porn stars. Are there problems in the porn industry? You bet. Ron Jeremy just got convicted not long ago for rape. right? That's a long-standing guy who had a career of like almost 40 years in the industry. There's another guy up that's probably going to go down who's very popular. Um, I don't remember his name. Adam something. Well, you can look up the case numbers. Other porn stars, because of other mental problems they had or other things going on in their lives, the artist who went by the name Cody Lane, for instance, from Kentucky, have problems with law where they end up, getting arrested for drug possession or minor offenses, such as I believe hers was actually assault and battery. But how many people do you know in the regular workforce that have the same? For instance, not the current hotel I work at, but one of the hotels I worked at, one of my coworkers was a convicted felon. And he was convicted for attempted murder. One day he told me his story. He had come home, found his wife with somebody she wasn't supposed to be with, and almost killed the guy. I used to work with another person at a different business who was guilty of embezzlement. Cleaned up his life, got clean, tried to make it right, and hardly anybody ever gave him a fair shake. Yet he was still doing the work. I've worked with several girls who are recovered drug addicts. One of the guys I used to train with at the studio, in his youth had been addicted to heroin and had to get over it. He's now a school teacher. So why are Tim and his guests saying porn's going to ruin your life? Because they're making a moral judgment against the people who are involved in it based on what they think the industry is. Now, the great irony of this is that in about 6 to 10 years, this is going to be a moot point. And they actually touched on this in their interview. AI art and AI voices have gotten so good that there are a lot of people now making animated pornography. So they don't have to do things like pay actors. So they have to do things like rent a set, have a production crew. And that's going to change the industry again. I actually think that's going to change the industry for the worst, because then, since there aren't real people involved, real limitations won't be involved either. That's going to be a problem. Hopefully there'll be some studio out there that will survive that. But all of this taken into account, let's consider something else about this phenomenon. The idea that something should be banned from society because it might be dangerous. So is driving. Today I was almost hit twice. Should I stop driving my car? It strikes me very much as being the same modus operandi behind, hey, this book is dangerous to the public order, therefore we should ban it. Hey, this show says things that the state doesn't like. We should make sure that doesn't affect young minds. Get it off the air. To me, this seems like simple tyranny. But this is that door, right? And I know the excuse. I know the excuse sounds good on the surface. But I think what it actually does is just infantilizes the society until eventually your art and your speech will be nothing but, as I call it, puppies and kittens. About 5 years ago, I said something on the internet politically that got half my friends, my internet friends, to block me. Some of them were people I knew in real life who I'd had deep relationships, such as former girlfriends. My adopted Jewish brother, still won't talk to me because I dared criticize BLM. I've not received one phone call, not one email, not one anything from him. So fuck Lou. I've got clubs I've been kicked out of. I've had coworkers vilify me, not this hotel, but the hotel I used to work at, the one right before here, Ramada. The first night I was there, when my coworker found out that I was Jewish, he started blaming me for all the problems in the world, claiming I was part of Zog. It's part of the reason why I left that job. if we go down the road of trying to make the internet safe for everybody at regular consumption, you're going to have a problem of any challenging idea or any challenging speech or any art that might be fringe won't be able to be found again. It will end up being a bland landscape of the same old thing all over again, just with slightly different variations. Oh, look, in this painting, the cat has his left paw up rather than his right. And I call that approach Puppies and Kittens. Basically, that nothing should offend you, everything should be nice, there should be no challenge, there should be nothing that makes you go, ugh, I don't think I like that. I remember on the internet saying, okay, fine, I'll just do nothing but puppies and kittens for a while. And for a month, every day, I posted a picture of a puppy or a kitten doing something cute. The sad part is I got more likes than ever before. If the internet is supposed to be the public square, and it is, and that's where trading and information in the marketplace of ideas has moved to, which it seems to be, then I'm sorry, but you can't ban things from it. You've got to let it be there so you can fight things out. And yes, I'm stating my principles on this. You'll notice that in my mantra, when I say what we should do against Islam, I'm not saying Islam needs to disappear. Right? I just want it gone from the West. If Saudi Arabia wants to continue being Muslim, hey, more power to them. I think it's idiotic, but that's their country. Right? My point in my standing up against it is that that's not ours. We have a tradition of free speech. Islam does not. That's why I see this as still being within the same moral and ethical wheelhouse of things I've said earlier. This is not the first time I've had to make a post defending something as objectionable as pornography. And yet it stuns me how we have to have this discussion. It seems every year. There's some stuff going on right now with people on the Hill, the current administration, talking about some things that look an awful lot like censorship. I wonder what it's going to take for people to learn, hey, when you start to censor stuff, all you do is create resentment and a movement against you. And I'm only speaking right now of ideas in art. I'm not speaking of things like the prohibition on alcohol that we tried, or the current laws we have against certain hard drugs. I'm speaking right now just about speech and art. Speech and art where we hash out ideas, where we test them. If we tamper with that, we're going to end up getting false results. That's my fear here. All right, thank you for listening, and hopefully the internet will not end up being just puppies and kittens.